Hey community, welcome back. And if this is your first time here, I'm Dr. Blaire, a doc in clinical psychology. And on this channel, we discuss psychology, inspiration, social justice, and all topics in between. First things first, hit that subscribe button. I need to see you back next week. And of course, stay tuned because today I have a special guest here with me to discuss how to build the Black community. Stay tuned. All right, today, so we're going to be talking about building the Black community, as I mentioned earlier, and I have a special guest here with me. This is Tomika. She is a licensed clinical social worker, LCSW, in the state of Illinois, and we're not necessarily going to be focusing on that as much as I want to focus on how to build our Black community. And I know it's near and dear to my heart just as much as it is to you. And so it had me sitting down thinking, well, how have we done it in the past? It's kind of hard to move forward without knowing what we did in the past. And so when I think about things that I have recognized or that previous generations have shared with me that built the Black community was really around unity and coming together to work towards this common goal. And I think anybody who has been on a sports team or any type of group, a team working towards a goal, the real focus is, okay, we're going to accomplish A, B, and C, and we're going to come together. Here is our plan on how we're going to accomplish A, B, and C. And that is how we're able to really move forward in unity. And so it makes me think of times like during the boycott, where everybody was like, all right, we're not getting on this bus. And everybody did it in unity. And it became effective because they did it together. It became effective because they had a common goal. They had a common goal that they wanted to achieve, and they had a common plan that was really going to help them to do it together in unity. And so I'm just wondering, what are some of your thoughts? What are some of the things that come up for you when you think about historically what Black people have done to build our community?
Well, first of all, Dr. Blair, thanks for having me. I, I, I'll tell you this: what I really would like to see um, the Black community do
Mhm.
is focus on resources, right? I think building our community, we have to have resources. And what resources am I talking about? I'm speaking of jobs, and not just jobs, but careers, right? Because jobs can't sustain our family, right?
Mhm.
With $15 an hour type jobs, we can't really adequately support our five members in our home, right? We can't pay this $900 and something rent or mortgage. It's very difficult to go on and pay for, say, food and utilities and the basic needs.
Yeah.
So I would like to see more so careers. And
Mhm.
then another way I believe that will strengthen and build our community is great school systems, right?
Mhm.
Um, unfortunately, um, unfortunately, I have not had great experiences with Chicago public schools.
Mhm.
That's exactly those are that's the school system that that's in my community, right? And so I would like to see more of less students in a smaller classroom size, right? Um, More involved parents, as well as I don't know, just like teachers that really genuinely care. And
Mhm.
not to say that a lot of teachers don't, but I would like to see more of them. I don't want to just see like only three that really love their children. I would like to see the whole entire staff really vested in their students, right?
Well, that's interesting that you bring that point out specifically because, and I'm gonna kind of make a full circle, so kind of walk and dance around this with me. But when we look at the school system now, and you brought up CPS, we're both Chicagoans, we're in the Chicagoland area, but this is something that we're seeing across the nation. A lot of educators are leaving the field, and this is not just in education or academia, but it's also happening just across any discipline, any area, any career, where folks are leaving the area of their work and either changing what they're doing and or starting on their own. And so we have this what I believe they're now calling it I almost said the great falling on, the great resignation, where people are resigning from their job, from their career, from the area that they're usually or that they have worked in for years. And so now we're going to see the trickle effect, the after effect of that in the years to come. And I think that one of the things that happens when we have a tragedy is that we expect that change or the solution to come very quickly, but it doesn't. Sometimes the tragedy happens in a matter of seconds, and then the cleanup for that happens over a span of years. And I believe that that is something that we're going to be dealing with post COVID. Not, I don't even feel comfortable saying post COVID, because COVID is still here. People are still being impacted by COVID. They have just lifted some of the bans that in fact could come back at any point in time. But not to dive into that, but instead really draw out the fact that you're bringing up historically, and even something that could work to this very day for the Black community, is around actually having and creating stability. And careers help to build into the stability, because it also helps with our finances. It helps people to be in areas that they're passionate about, that they actually love, and that keeps people around because they enjoy doing what they're doing, and they're not just there because they're there. And so speaking to this stability that we really need to build and maintain, that's the key right there, maintain in the Black community, is something that keeps ringing in my head as I'm listening to you speak. And I'm sure that there are some other areas that we can actually learn to make stable, but I feel a little uncomfortable saying learn, because I feel like these are things that we know up here and we kind of know here, but something happens, something becomes a disruption between knowing it here and here and actually doing that. And I want to be fair, because a lot of us Black people, we have so many barriers that come up for us that prevents us from actually being able to get to a lot of these things that we are, diving into. So I'm just curious, like, what are your thoughts about the barriers that come up that actually is holding our communities back from being able to have the level of stability, the economic stability, to be able to be financially literate, to be able to have strong school systems? Like, money impacts actually all of this, but what are some of the barriers that are holding us back from being able to fully launch forward in that utopia that we talk about a lot?
Well, first, I would say definitely some of the barriers are basic, like transportation, right? A lot of times, many of us get jobs that are way out in the suburbs where the transportation services are
Scarce.
scarce. It's
Mhm.
nothing, especially during the times that we get picked for certain shifts, like overnight shifts, like 10 to 6 or 11 to 7. And so you will find that a lot of us in our community are having hard time finding transportation to take us there and there and back,
Mhm.
to these places of employment. I think that so transportation is a serious issue, especially nowadays with the gas. It's costing like $120-$130 just to fill up a
Yes, yes,
car.
yes.
That's not even a truck, okay? And then on top of that, we have issues with childcare,
Mhm.
right? With childcare is, you have to meet a certain bracket to get assistance
Right.
with childcare,
Mhm.
but you're still in that bracket. You're still in that financial bracket where you actually can't really afford that $800,000 a month for childcare,
Mhm.
but you still need that job. So I find it, the basic things like childcare and transportation,
Mhm.
real issues, real barriers, and not to mention just the the criminal records
Mm.
from back in the day.
Yeah, that's a really
It
good.
might be small. It might be small criminal records that we have, And when I say small, like, I mean, not to minimize, anything about, committing a crime or anything, but things that's like, I don't know, being caught with marijuana, right?
Mhm.
And that's stopping people from actually getting hired,
Right.
I don't, I think that these are some barriers that we really are facing in our community, right? And then when we when we have these barriers, it just makes it so much harder to support our families. And
Mhm.
when it makes it so much harder for our families, like the mothers, the fathers, then that's harder on the children as well. And then when the kids are having problems, that trickles down into the school system.
Right.
They're not able to learn, because they have to deal with, issues with uh oh yeah, we might be getting kicked out because we can't afford the rent, or food. We're lacking food. We
Mhm.
don't qualify for, public assistance, but we still don't have quite enough. So it's like, how can we build our community, right, with the resources we do have?
Right.
And I think that's the question. you
Hmm.
know how can we build our community with the resources that we do have?
That is a really good question. And before I even, even attempt to address such a good question, I want to back up because it's making me think. Last month I talked about um the Maslow's hierarchy of needs and that basic needs. And what you're talking about here is if we don't have our basic needs met,
Yes,
how could you even think about everything that's above in the higher tiers? And that, I
you
mean,
can.
that's common sense. I know we say common sense ain't common, bad English, but it does kind of make sense. It's logical that if you are wondering about your safety and you're in a high crime area, but we also
Yes.
know that poverty is directly correlated to safety concerns in an area. We know that poverty is directly correlated to crime, but we also,
Mm-hmm.
there's a racial aspect to this. As we're talking about building the Black community, and historically the Black community has had hard hits, and most of us will say, well, you know what, we started behind the mark and we're in a running race and the line is here. We had to start off way back before
Right.
everybody else had to start off. So now not only am I expected to catch up with the rest of you, but I'm expected to then exceed past or go beyond where they are. And that actually is a lot of weight on you when you think about it in that way. That's a lot of weight, and it actually can be quite frustrating and or feel like too high of a mark to reach. Yet we continue to expect that from ourselves. And I'm not saying that expecting a lot from one another collectively and individually is a bad thing. It's a good thing. In fact, that's one of our strong suits because we are so resilient. We continue to rise
Yes,
above,
we
but
are.
we've made so much progress in such a short amount of time. When we look at how long slavery was going
Mm,
on for over 400 years,
yeah.
over 4 centuries. And this is what has been recorded. I'm very confident whatever's recorded is not accurate to the T. I'm very confident that we have seen historically information
Yes.
hidden from us before. So what is to say that that isn't as well? So I'm very confident that that 400 years that we keep on talking about is much longer than that, but I won't dive into that rabbit hole right now. We had 400 years of that. Then we went into people being freed or lied to. This is what we just talked about not that long ago, Juneteenth. People being freed and didn't know it. Then they were like, oh, now we're free. But then they went into another system that would pretty much mimicked slavery with sharecropping and things of that nature, where they again started so much further behind the line that all these years now, after going into Jim Crow, after going through the 70s, and now we're in this Black Lives Matter era where we are still seeing a lot of the same trends. We are still having a lot of the same concerns. And I want us to be patient with ourselves because it takes so much. It takes so much to bring a people out of what we've gone through to where we are. So I know that a lot of times we wish we were further along. I do too. But we have to be patient with ourselves because it took a lot to get us to where we are now. it will take just as much and or more to get us where we want to go. And realize that this is not going to happen over a year. We're talking about shifting the mentality of a people, not a person, shifting the mentality of a community as a whole. And that takes initiatives, that takes time, that takes endurance, that takes consistency, that takes that whenever we see one win, we don't throw up our hands and say, all right, we done. No, we have to win the entire fight, and we have to continue. And sometimes we've gotten tired and we've gotten relaxed, and we can't relax in the same way that we want to, because the work is not done just yet if we're going to hold ourselves to these same standards. So I say all that to say that we have all of these barriers, all of these things that are holding us back from getting over the hurdle, that is making it harder for us to move forward. As you brought up issues around transportation, you brought up basic needs not being met, that how then can we have the expectation that we're going to meet the things that's higher up in the hierarchy? And it's just not fair. So as this psychological pressure, this distress, that I have to get an A, but I don't have all the information I need in order to get an A. Actually, right now, the best I can get is a C, but the C is not good enough.
Right. I think that another issue that that another barrier is how we deal with conflict. We really need to address that, right? Because it's to the point where we become a barrier to ourselves because of lack of conflict resolution, proper conflict resolution, right? Because we are fighting, arguing, shooting, because we disagree with one another. We have to learn how to agree to disagree without violence. See, the problem is that we don't have a lot of resources in our community because these big companies don't want to invest in our communities. Why? Because they don't trust us. And it's not that Black money don't spend, because we are like the highest number one consumers in the world. Okay, we are
buy a lot. We buy
exactly. We made many people rich.
Yes,
but it's the fact that when we have different stores, I'll give you an example. They moved Target out of our community. Why? They moved, we used to have Best Buy, gone. We used to have Walgreens. What happened to Walgreens? Oh, we tore it up. So these corporations don't feel comfortable investing in our communities. And then when we ourselves finally make it, we want to forget about all our trauma. We want to hurry up and get up out the hood, right? We don't even want to see what reminded us of the horrible times, right? And not to say that all of our years living in the hood has been horrible, because we've learned a lot. Yeah. We've learned how to be resilient. We've learned how to make lemons out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemons, okay? But the point I'm making is, we've learned so much from living in poverty. We've learned so much from the struggle that we can't do anything but respect that, right? But we do have to recognize and not hide and not sugarcoat what's going on in the hood. Why we cannot have our children outside playing like we used to. See, when I grew up, we were able to play double dutch outside. We were able to run around and play hide go seek. We were able to exercise. Now these kids are just in the house. Why? Because parents, no, I don't want you outside. They shoot it. I don't want you. Be careful. I'm scared. Fear. So much fear is inside of us nowadays. Why? Because it's not just because of the media. It's not because of the news. It's because we actually hearing helicopters around our house at night. We're actually hearing gunshots, and it's normal now. So yes, we can't have our children outside playing like they should, right?
Yeah,
which
that's a
which
good
is
point.
another issue.
That's such a good
It
point.
causes. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It shifted the fear from them to now us. We're afraid of us. And I want to be fair because it is my responsibility, it's my mandate, part of my purpose to not only shed light on the needs of the survivors, the victims, but also of the perpetrators. In this situation,
Yes.
we're talking about those who are violating, the people in our communities who are committing the crime. And what we are learning more of, what is becoming more public, I should say, to those outside of the mental health professional realm, is that
Mhm.
trauma has a lot to do with that. We have cycles of trauma that
Yes.
perpetuates this problem that we have not only in our communities, but we see it a lot in our community. And just to shed a little bit light on that, for those who are continuing to commit a crime, sometimes it is they feel like they have no other option.
Yes.
They feel like this is all of the example that I've ever been provided. And so this is not me pointing the finger at them, but instead wanting to shift the paradigm and look at what has happened in your life that led you to this situation. And do you know you're contributing to what we are considering to be a much larger problem? And I believe that most of the time people, again, are not thinking about that because that's a little bit higher up on that hierarchy that we've talked about. Right now, they're talking about meeting their basic needs just as much as
Yes.
the next person. And so it breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart because then I think about how much time and how many hours we need to put into healing our people so that we can then be able to think about your next door neighbor and what you do and how it impacts the next generation. Like how much time and how much healing we need in our mentality, in our hearts, and to actually shift and change our behaviors and provide us with healthy systems so that, you know, one, two, and three people, all of the you one, two, and three students in the school can come out and have the same opportunities available to them in our community instead of two of them ending up in places we don't want them and one of them possibly having a chance to make it out.
Hmm.
I want us to be able to get to a point where we are not able to, we're not having to worry about that, but instead think about the cycles that that one and two student had to go through. What have they gone through that put them in the shoes that they are in? Sometimes we are just handed stuff and we do with what we have. Like you mentioned earlier, how can we take the resources that we have and use it to our advantage? And I think that we're kind of, we're spinning around that because I don't know if there is a clear answer or a tangible answer as much as it's a question that we really have to think about and break apart to find solutions and pray about solutions for, simply because for those that we consider to be perpetrators or those that we're considering to be violators of our community, they have something that they need to be healed of as well. They
Yeah.
have basic needs just like the rest of us. And so I want us to, and this is just, wanting to lean on our compassionate selves and compassionate perspective, that the things that they are in need of, actually, when we think about it, are just the same as us,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
their behaviors are being manifested and shown to us in a different way that society considers to be inappropriate, in which it is inappropriate and it has a negative impact on others. But I really want us to be able to develop systems, because now you started this off with resources. What happens if those three students all have after school programs to go to so they're not out in the street
Right.
and they
Right.
get some of that crime off of the street? What happens if they have programming or they have sports? So many of our students can't even participate in sports anymore. What
Hmm.
happens if they have places and safe spaces to be able to spend their time and do something productive? What happens if we bring back our art programs? What happens if we had the funding to be able to source systems and platforms like this so that our youth can be able to go there instead of having to look to the streets? What if we had that? And I know that a lot of churches have been the cornerstone in the Black community for years. And I know
Mhm.
that a lot of churches are fighting to keep youth involved in in programming in the church. But what happens if we had that so that we don't have to just focus on our basic needs? But dear God, we still trying to get a leg up on that.
Wow, that's rough. I mean, how can we even do? I mean, how can we have time to just learn about different things like, the piano or science,
Mm-hmm.
mixing chemicals and learning how to, code and things like that when our basic needs are not being met.
Right.
So I think that in a perfect world, I would like to see our community um, with with resources like our own stores.
Mhm.
Like I would like to see our community with grocery stores with fresh fruits and vegetables, right? Reasonably priced. Not because it's organic, we have to pay 3-4 times the amount that we would, for a non-organic product, right? I would like to see restaurants that's not just fried foods,
Yeah,
right?
yeah to that.
Why I would like to see places of business in our community that actually are planted there to help us not just survive but actually live, right?
Mhm.
So what I mean by that is I want to see I would like to see businesses that provide education for us, that provide healthy foods for us, that provide that kind of um, a great way of living. Because if we keep continuing to live this way, it's just that's it's just like we're constantly passing down these bad habits. Like for example, like McDonald's.
Mhm.
Your grandmother ate it, your mother's eating it, you're eating it, and now you're gonna pay. And it's just like, let's eat McDonald's 3 times a week.
Mhm.
What's gonna happen? We're gonna get diabetes, high blood pressure,
Mhm.
and possibly what is that? The number one killer, heart attack or something. I'm not sure. I can't even remember what's the stats anymore. But all of this is learned behavior.
Right.
And that's because that's the only thing that's in our neighborhood that we can hurry up and grab.
That's
And
all
that's
of it.
cheap that we can afford.
Yeah.
Can we get quality food here?
And in order to get these things, I believe what has to happen is, and you brought it out, you actually started this, that we have
Mhm.
to have our businesses,
Yes.
to build it for ourselves. And we've seen this historically work in the past prior
Yes.
to integration. Segregation,
Mm,
we couldn't go to the other store, so we did it for ourselves. And actually, the Black community was on the way to their own stability, their own ecosystem that
right.
actually, fueled our communities. And this is not me rooting for segregation. This is me rooting for, we have to do it for ourselves. And here's the caveat: we gotta support each other. And sometimes the sacrifice
Exactly.
is, you know what? I'm gonna work with them. They taking a little too long to bring my stuff, but I'm gonna work with them because they're learning how to run a business. And my community has to learn how to offer better customer service.
Customer
We
service.
have to work on our
Absolutely.
customer service.
Woo!
We
Yes.
gotta
Yes.
work on our
Yes.
customer service. So I agree with you that we have to really build on our own businesses instead of relying on the Walmart to positively contribute to the things that we need. Even though we put billions of dollars in these companies' pockets, don't expect them to actually help us because they haven't done so this far. They've done a few things.
Right.
I commend Target. I love y'all. You have put in more Black owned companies and products in your stores, but at the end of the day, I still don't rely on Target to be our solution.
Mhm,
We
mhm,
have to be
mhm.
the solution to the problems that we have co-created and or that we have been handed. And one of the ways to be able to build a stable community is to have businesses that we support and we support nonstop. So I'm wondering if there are maybe about two more solutions that you can think of that would really help to build our Black community and positively impact our future generations.
So I think like growing our own crops. I
Yeah,
mean, we see it everywhere.
I love that.
Uh, Community gardens. I've done it for years, very successful. And on top of that, when I was doing the community garden for years, all of the kids in the neighborhood. I'm sorry, not kids. My son will kill me if he heard me say kids, baby goats. But all the children, all of the children would come around
Mhm.
and learn about how to plant, how to grow food. And then also it was showing them about healthy eating,
Yeah,
healthy living,
I love that.
right? I mean, and then also it's community building.
It
I
is.
got to know all the little all the children that was in the neighborhood,
Yeah,
right?
love that.
And that is how you do it. You start from when they're young and you teach them, right? You're plant when I was literally planting those seeds, I was literally planting seeds.
Listen, she was training up a child in the way that they should go. I love that so much. The double entendre, that was really prophetic, especially because of the times that we are in now. We need to not be reliant. I talked about this last month in emergency building. And I made a post. That post is still available on Instagram and Facebook at Dr. Blaire if you wanted to be able to build up on food and items in case an emergency were to come. You don't want to be in a situation or emergency coming, you don't have what you need. But most importantly, to build and make sure that we're providing for ourselves and not being reliant on corporations and companies, because at any day they could fall. But I'm going to add on this before we switch around to give the people, the viewers, information about you so they can stay in contact. Is I believe, just as you said, that we have to get to know each other and we have to learn to love each other, even through our disagreements. We have to learn to love, tongue twister, sorry. We have to learn to love one another, even past our disagreements, because that is going to help to continue to build our communities and create cohesion. Unity isn't always about, I agree with everything you said. Unity,
Right.
the conscious decision to work cohesively, to work together, work with one another and not against each other. So with that being said, these are things that I know that you have done in your community, and I love that. And you yourself are actually a business owner. So just, shameless plug, tell us your business, what's your Instagram name, how can people stay in contact?
Yeah. So yeah, well, we have a family flower business. We make beautiful floral designs from weddings to funerals to just because, like, for example, something like this.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we do a lot of floral designs. And just to let you know, we do pray over all of our flowers. Yes, yes, yes. So these are sanctified.
I love that so much. So y'all check out her Instagram. Seriously, what she
Yes.
has behind her is just one example, but her arrangements are beautiful. And I'm not even a huge flower person, but what's your Instagram name?
Yeah, it's orchids, ORCHIDS _and AND _sage, SAGE. So orchids and sage on Instagram. Check me out. We love to create something beautiful for you guys. And then I am also, like Dr. Blaire said, a licensed clinical social worker. So I do provide therapy, individual therapy, couples therapy. Um, for any individual that is in great need. So yeah, check me out.
They can find you in Psychology Today. What's the
Yes, you can find me on Today, Tomika Taylor, Tomika. Yep.
all
And
right.
then also
I'll put that in
I'm
the
also
description, y'all.
oh, okay. Yeah, so and I'm also a medical management social worker. So yep,
Yeah,
yep.
she wears many hats. Y'all hear that? Many hats. So she's not even just talking about it, but she's doing the things that we are discussing. So y'all, I pray and hope that this had, if it didn't even drop an idea, that it is giving you some information that you didn't have prior to. Maybe it has fueled you to be able to get up and put a fire under you so you can get up and do some of these things that you actually know to your core. We have to be actively engaged in the change. We can't sit around and talk about all day. What are you doing to make the change?
Yeah.
Tamika, thank you so much for coming. We'll have to see you again in the future.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Blaire, for having me.
Of course. Like, comment, subscribe, and share. Share with someone else so that we can build a stronger Black community. And most importantly, make sure that we are staying connected on Instagram at Dr. Blaire, or on Facebook as well as Clubhouse. And you connect with Tomika if you are in need of mental health services and you're in Illinois. She offers her services to you. And if you are also in need of floral services, please make sure that you are supporting another Black business out here. And remember, before you go, if I'm great and you're great, then we're a great community.